It's been like 2 months, man. It's been a minute. What's going on?
Did I miss it?
Welcome to the Sports Wheelhouse. I thought, JD, you were dipping out for a second. I thought it was going to be a whole nother 2 months.
No, we're good.
It's the Sports Wheelhouse, y'all. It's our official second show of the year.
We're spicy.
Because we had some things happen. Camper Nick already checking in. What's up, Camper Nick? I'm going to try and be like the radio shows and give everybody cool nicknames. Camper Nick. It's the Sports Wheelhouse, dude. How you been?
Do you want the real answer or a fake answer?
I mean, I kind of know the real answer, so go fake answer.
I'm glorious.
All right, go fake answer.
Dude, I'm like licking my wounds, man. My state team, my team went to the state tournament, came in top 4 of this in the state in 4A. So big accomplishment.
Which is awesome, by the way.
It is awesome. It's awesome, but we had, we still had more things that we weren't done yet in our mind. We weren't done dancing, and we're gonna talk a little bit about March Madness, but we weren't done dancing. But somebody said we were done, so we had to be done.
I mean, and that's rough. I mean, but again, it's tough to. Somebody's got to win the last game of the season. Someone's always gonna be disappointed. So I do get it. It stinks, but at the same time, top 4, better than a lot of other teams.
A lot of other teams, and all the other teams weren't playing when we were playing. So, we still got to go and experience that. Guys were sad in the locker room, but, we still got another shot at it next year. We got a couple of our top guys coming back. So it's all good.
So if you've never watched an episode of this, what we do is we have a whole bunch of topics on a wheel. And we spin it, and it's been a very sad day in Philadelphia, so we are going to talk about that a little bit. We're going to talk about a bunch of things, so I think we should just get right into it because you and I will tend to go a little bit longer than we want to if we don't.
Yeah, let's do that.
So here be the wheel, the very fancy wheel. It's nice and colorful, and we're going to spin. Opening topic. Ooh, interesting. The QB market. So, for those of you that don't know, there are some quarterbacks in the NFL on the market right now. And again, draft season's coming up, so we're going to talk a little bit about the combine and talk about who some of these rookies are later on that could fill in some spots. But some big-name guys are now out there and available. We're going to talk about Russell Wilson on its own separate category. So, we're going to leave that out for a second. But, JD, 2 names that come to my mind, and I kind of want to know if you would rather go rookie or one of these 2 cats. 2 names that come to my mind that have gotten a lot of talk is everybody's favorite Jimmy G, right? Because Jimmy Garoppolo is done in Vegas.
Porn star Jimmy.
What's that?
Porn star Jimmy.
Porn star Jimmy. Yep. So he's done over in Vegas. And what the hell is going on with Justin Fields, a dude who was the number 1 overall draft pick not so long ago, getting a raw deal in Chicago, and rather than giving him any kind of weapons at all, they're just like, no, he's got to go. So talk to me a little bit about your take on the QB market.
Well, for one, as a Steelers fan, I think we need to either get Justin Fields or Russell Wilson. I know we're gonna talk about him later, but but just in general, man, like the QB room, like they're realizing since this whole situation in San Francisco where they got Mr. Irrelevant, people are thinking that they're gonna catch lightning in a bottle. Every so often, there's these guys that we're gonna catch a guy in the draft that's gonna change our trajectory, and it won't. let's just be honest. It's not going to change your trajectory. If your team is a bad team, like you're not going to catch lightning in the bottle. Like you need to develop talent, and nobody wants to do that anymore. So the best thing to do is even adjust the field.
Nobody wants to do that anymore. And I think that that's really interesting. Again, so for those of you who have never seen this, JD and I come at this from a very different perspective a lot of the times, where he's got his Steelers love, I've got my Eagles love. But over in Phil, so it's actually a lot of the same story, but kind of different narrative. So over in Pittsburgh, I mean, they anointed small hands Kenny Pickett, small hands Kenny Pickett to be the guy. And then they brought in a smorgasbord of nobodies, and none of them could do the job. I mean, yeah, they were above 500, and they did what they had to do, but they're not a team that to be feared. Now going into the offseason, your Steelers are saying, well, yeah, it's Kenny Pickett's job again, but let's see if we can bring in some help. Over in Philadelphia, the only people who think that Jalen Hurts isn't the guy are the media and some of the fan base. I mean, Jalen Hurts is most indubitably the guy. Did he take a step back this year? Absolutely. Is that something that has to be worked on? Absolutely.
I think they all did, though. I don't think
the whole team did. It's the whole team, to quote my man Jason Kelsey, which we're going to talk about, and whether or not that led to some of the factors, of course. But the Philadelphia Eagles do not have a quarterback controversy. The Pittsburgh Steelers will have an open competition. People are still saying that guys like Kyler Murray are worth a damn. They're already anointing Anthony Richardson. I don't know if the Titans have a guy. Ryan Tannehill's on the market somewhere. He'll be a great backup. I could see him ending up in Pittsburgh. So to me, the quarterback market is very interesting right now. For it to be the most important position on the team, the more I don't want to say interesting, but the more dangerous position that's not being talked about is the running back market.
Yep.
And I know that's not one of our topics, but the running back market, where Jonathan Thomas is, who knows what over there. Tony Pollard is on the market. Josh Jacobs is going to be on the market. Saquon Barkley is going to be on the market. Derrick Henry is going to be on the market. I mean, those are all pro guys. DeAndre Swift right now is technically on the market. So which one is going to be more interesting to watch to you? QB or running back?
Probably, because it's the one that everybody falls in love with, it's probably more the QB. Mm-hmm. It's the team leader and all that. Like, so you kind of just have to keep your eyes on that, because they're the guy that are leading the team. Like the running backs, like they're not paying the running backs anything right now. So,
which is crazy.
Yeah, super crazy. And the teams that have these like stud running backs, like they're not doing very well. Like it's just being honest. Like the game is kind of changed. It's more of a passing league. Most of the penalties are given to the receivers, so it's more like it's more pass heavy. That's the like the thing that people want to do.
Passing is sexier.
It's sexier. So you're only gonna have like certain teams like Eagles, maybe San Francisco, teams like that are gonna kind of try to run the ball, and everybody else is just put the sexy team like Kansas City, still sexy. They're gonna throw the ball out 300 times.
But see, like I look at Kansas City, and they had a running game in Isaiah Pacheco. They had a whole bunch of no-name wide receivers for a majority of the season. The only thing really good about Kansas City is Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce and Andy Reid. That little triumvirate is what kept that team going. Eric, what's going on, buddy? Thanks for driving in.
Big E.
I just think that, and even some of the guys that I didn't mention that are going to be out there, like Daniel Jones, he's garbage and a half. Guys like, and I just had a couple in my mind that I'm already forgetting about. Who was I forgetting? I had one in my mind. There was a couple quarterbacks that have been. Mac Jones. Mac Jones is not going to get a starting job somewhere. Taylor Heineke is not going to get a starting job somewhere. The Atlanta Falcons absolutely need to be in the market for a quarterback, because Desmond Ridder ain't it. You know what I mean? I just think that there's so much out there. I think that, this happened a couple seasons ago where all of the quarterback were kind of like all over the place. And you're going to see a lot of franchise faces going to different teams in this offseason.
True.
Adam?
I was trying to look at like how many different starting quarterbacks they have been in the last year. and it said 22. There's only 30 something teams in the NFL, right? If I'm not mistaken, 32 teams. No, yeah. I'm lying. The 32 teams.
32.
Okay, so there's 22.
32 picks in the first round. 32.
All right. Well, there was 22 new quarterbacks that played and started a game this year. So
Zach Wilson is going to be a free agent.
Dude, it's nuts. Like, I can't with these people. Like,
right?
I can't.
Javier, are you saying that that's crazy to say that the three guys are the ones who essentially live in another Super Bowl win? Saying that my take on it is crazy, or you're going, holy cow, that's actually true? Because when you, I mean, yes, defensively they were a pretty solid team. I'm not going to say they blew the doors off, but they were a pretty solid team. But that team showed up in the right moments. It was, and you saw this a lot, in my opinion, with Tom Brady, right? Tom Brady was an elite level quarterback who had a bunch of mediocres around him at all times.
Fair.
And led them to Super Bowl victory after Super Bowl victory. You can have that truly generational talent. Whereas you look at teams like the 49ers, I think that Brock Purdy, even though he is now a Super Bowl appearing quarterback, is mediocre at best, right? But he is surrounded by elite running back in Christian McCaffrey, an elite tight end in Kittle, an elite player in Deebo Samuel, even though I hate the guy. And then Brandon Ayuk showed up. I mean, he started just having all those guys around him, and he couldn't carry the bag. So I think that it really does come down to quarterback play when all is said and done. It is possible to win a Super Bowl with mediocre quarterback play. A little bit. Kirk Cousins, Conway, man, exactly. Kirk Cousins could very easily end up being a free agent this offseason. Not to mention, you bring in guys like, Carson Wentz, who got, reintroduced to the stratosphere. I'm not saying that he belongs anywhere. I'm just saying these are all big name quarterbacks without a home.
Can we just, if we're gonna throw in Carson Wentz, let's throw in Cam Newton. Let's just do it.
We can't, because you're looking at guys who were on NFL rosters last year. Cam Newton was not. That's the same reason I wouldn't say Johnny Manziel.
We can't just throw Cam in there. He just beat up 3 guys at one time.
So put him on the D line. He clearly's got the ability to shed some tackles. He can shed those blocks.
He was actually the one tackling people, so he needs to be on the defensive line.
Right, defensive line. Right, exactly. Just like they said out of Auburn. That you Batman. You're Batman.
Listen, yeah, I'm with you though. I'm with you. And so get into some of these comments real quick while you got the thing up.
We're gonna talk about Russ.
Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, we're gonna talk about Jason Kelce.
Yep, these are all topics for sure. Because again, when we talk about the quarterback class, it's one of those changing the face of the NFL. Yet still,
it's the same 3 guys.
But it's the same. Mahomes is going to be there. Burrow's going to come back healthy. Herbert's now got an offensive guru to maybe help him out a little bit.
And Jalen Hurts has to be in that conversation the last couple of years because he's been in that conversation.
Jalen Hurts needs a bounce back year.
He does, but he's been in the conversation still.
Jalen Hurts also needs coordinators to do what they're going to do. He also needs, I mean, the Eagles got, and we're going to talk about Kelce, but the Eagles got horrifically worse today, in my opinion. And I'm not, emergency flagging, and I'm not saying that, it's the end, and I'm not, doom and gloom, but I will tell you, I judge an offseason by, are they better than when they ended the season? And no, the Eagles have gotten worse today.
Adam's talking about the basketball team. We came in second. Well, we finished Final Four in our state playoffs. So we did really, really good. I'm so proud of those guys. I talked about it earlier.
Didn't even talk about Jacoby Brissett. Man, that's a great point. Jacoby Brissett could easily be a key backup somewhere. I don't think Marcus Mariota, I think he's about done. I think that his time with the Eagles, I mean, he might end up as like a third string guy somewhere. I think it's going to be very interesting to see where all these quarterbacks fall.
There's so many layers. You can keep the thing up. You can pick the next topic. But, man, there's so many different layers with these guys because you have, everybody's trying to catch that diamond in the rough now because with Brock Purdy. But if you're Brock Purdy and you have, the offensive firepower and the defense that they have, you don't need this, he doesn't need to be a franchise quarterback. He can be almost like a regular Joe and a game manager because he doesn't need to do it. And the only time he really needed to be a not game manager and be a baller, it was the Super Bowl, and he just didn't have it. You know what I'm saying?
But like, all right, so real quick before we get to the NCAA tournament conversation, like I look at guys like Trent Dilfer.
Right.
Trent Dilfer won a Super Bowl.
Right.
Cool for Trent Dilfer, but that was it. You know, you look at guys like Matt Hasselbeck, who took a team to the Super Bowl, but that was it. Joe Flacco took a team to a Super Bowl, won a Super Bowl. I think it's possible to Nick Foles is in that conversation, right? It's possible to catch that lightning in a bottle,
but it has to be the right one for your era.
I don't know. It's not sustainable, and that's where I look like a guy like Brock Purdy. You know, Brock Purdy is already being anointed as the next Tom Brady, and I just think that's an oversell.
The next Tom Brady is Patrick Mahomes, so that's not even.
Yeah, clearly.
Like, what are we doing? Like, you have to, in order to beat Patrick Mahomes, you got to knock him out, and where he can't get up. Like you cannot allow him to stand up.
You got to Apollo Creed him.
You ain't got to kill him, but it's, but you definitely even looking back, like the stuff we were saying at the beginning of the year, like he's lost a step, like he fell off the cliff. Like look at the things they were saying about him, and then end of the game, like the end of the season, they're looking like, oh well, he's got a chance to win this thing. Like how? If you guys said he fell off a cliff, he's had the worst season of his career. Dude wins the Super Bowl and the MVP of the Super Bowl, for that matter. Yeah. He just needs a fighter's chance. Just like Tom Brady, he just needs a fighter's chance at the end, and he can somehow make magic happen.
If you leave him with that window, you get hit with the aha.
It's like you gave him too much time. You gave him too much time.
Oh, like when you looked at the clock and you knew that Tom Brady was going to leave the drive. Exactly. Yeah.
What are we doing?
All right. NCAA tournament. It is officially March. March Madness is right around the corner. I know how excited you are about this. I'm going to be very, very honest. Unfortunately, I have not paid attention to like any of it.
But
because it is tough to watch. I think that there is so much parity in NCAA basketball these days that you're like, oh, I'm going to think this team is going to do really great. But They are literally the exact. There are 100+ teams that are identical.
Well, they're identical because the player, and because I coach in high school, 90% of these players are exactly the same.
Right.
There's no real individuality from person to person. Everybody's doing the double step back. Everybody's doing. Everybody wants to shoot 1,000 threes. Like there's no parity.
It mimics the NBA game without the talent to back up the NBA game.
Well, because you're paying them now, so there's that. And so you're going to see a lot less teams that play defense. You're gonna start seeing a lot less teams that really get it out the mud. And now if you haven't watched basketball, this is why I'm so glad we did the show. If you haven't watched basketball this entire season, this is the week to watch it. You're coming up on conference championship time. Teams are gonna be playing their best basketball right now, and you'll get to see some of these sleepers that are out of these smaller Division Ones that are going to win their conference championship. Mm-hmm. And these are what you need to keep your eye on for during your bracket, so your bracket doesn't get busted or
like mine every single year.
Shout out to T.
Yeah, shout out to T. We're gonna make sure that we do a bracket show.
Shout out to T. She's gonna destroy you.
She destroys me every year.
But
I think part of my issue with college basketball this year is you look at the people that are making the noise, right? Bronny James. We're supposed to be following USC because Bronny James is averaging 1.4 points per game or whatever it is.
That's not that. And that's okay. So let's just be honest about this whole project. Mm-hmm. Bronny James is a name. He's a persona.
Correct.
He's not a great player.
But now they're talking about, well, he's going to evaluate his draft stock. His draft stock is the same as my draft stock.
I mean, if you're just chip, you think maybe, but if you're LeBron James' son, you always got some draft stock.
Yeah, but it's the same thing that happened when Michael Jordan's kids came through. Neither of them were anywhere good enough to be even considered for the NBA.
I promise you, LeBron James Jr., Bronny is way better than Michael Jordan's, both his kids.
And I'm not denying that. But what I'm saying is for that to be the center focus of this college basketball season, and Javier saying that his brother might be better than him.
He's bigger. He's like 6'8" already. 6'9".
Right. So he's going to have more of that skill set. Yeah. I mean, I just think that, like, I can't look at okay. There was like this golden age of college basketball, right? Where you had the Mike Krzyzewskis, where you had the John Chaneys, where you had the Rick Pitino's, actually coaching a real team rather than wherever he got, sent off to. You had all these guys that, you went from Dean Williams to, who are the coaches now? Who's coaching Villanova? Because it's not
Jay Wright.
It's not Jay Wright.
Okay.
Since that was the most consistent part of college basketball for the last 25 years was the coaches and the programs they established, what are we supposed to latch onto now other than Sister Mary Jean, who's 175 now?
So just humor me for a minute.
Go ahead, take it.
So when you start thinking about college basketball in the landscape, before you looked at those coaches because they were the highest paid coaches because they were making all the money, like Mike Krzyzewski, Roy Williams, Dean Smith before him, John Calipari.
Didn't even think about John Calipari.
Rick Pitino, John Thompson, Don Chaney. You got all these guys, right? They're mainstays in the college game. So now you have the new age of guys coming in. So you have like Shaka Smart, you got Dan Hurley. So you got all these new guys that are making their way, and then you still got the Blue Bloods. You still got Hubert Davis at North Carolina. So you got some guys. But right now, the transition that we're in is we're trying to figure out if those coaches are going to be iconic. They haven't built a legacy yet.
Correct.
Even the same thing with the guy at Gonzaga. Like, he's been there a bunch and hadn't won shit. So, like, you just
because Gonzaga plays a bunch of nobodies and they get to the tournament and they start playing against real programs. I'm not going to necessarily say real players.
Right. And so now it's not a coach-driven league that it's all about the scheme and it's all about like defense. It's a player-driven league like the NBA. So now you're following the player. So you're following to see if LeBron James can make a push. And I've been following more girls basketball. I'm following the South Carolina
and we're going to talk about Caitlin Clark in a second because, wow.
Caitlin Clark, you're going to follow LSU girls. Like,
we're going to follow South Carolina because we're Philly.
Yeah, and you got Don State, and I'm going to follow South Carolina because I'm in South Carolina. So you just,
go South Carolina both ways.
That's the only way. I don't pull for anything else.
I'm going to follow LaSalle because I taught Deshaun Shepard, who is just flying from every which way and dunking his ass off every which way.
So now the parity, like I said, the parity isn't with the coaches. Like you used to see what type of cool thing Mike Krzyzewski was like. How can he outsmart Roy Williams, or how can them two have that mental battle? And now it's all about, hey man, the guy Cooper Flagg's going to be at Duke next year. We need to be ready for him. Like, it's a players league. Go Gamecocks. Only in basketball for girls.
Word. It's so tough because, think about the big stories this year in college basketball, right? Obviously, the Caitlin Clark story, and we're going to talk about her in a second.
For sure.
Then you get to the Bronny James story, and we've already exhausted that. We've already given him more airtime than he deserves. Then you talk about how they're practicing for court storming situations because everybody wants to storm the court now, and this guy may have gotten hurt, and his season might be over, and then he's dunking a game. It's going to be very tough to pick the NCAA games because it's so irrelevant.
Well,
irrelevant.
You haven't wanted to watch it because it seems like it's a lot of like fluff. You know what I'm saying? You haven't wanted to watch it.
It's not even fluff to me. It is, if I turn on Duke versus North Carolina, it is not the same game that it once was. And maybe I'm saying that as
I'm
an
a
outsider.
fan.
Right. And I've always loved that matchup. But when you talk about like the greatest rivalries in sports, yes, the Tobacco Road matchup is always going to be up there. Just like the Red Sox and the Yankees are going to be up there, just like the Eagles and the Cowboys are going to be up there. But
Michigan and Ohio State football, yeah.
Right, but I can't tell you who won the last time that Duke and North Carolina played because I don't care.
Duke won the last time. But
I'm sure because Duke is pretty high up, right?
Yeah, but North Carolina's just as good.
But you got a guy from North Carolina who's played 95 seasons there now.
Baycock.
Right. I mean, he old now. He's college basketball old. You got the dude from Purdue,
the big dude,
who is dominant at the college level, but will be mediocre. He'll be a Matt Geiger at the pro level.
He may be, but what I need you guys to understand is this is not the older guys. What North Carolina has been doing for the last couple of years is they've managed to hold on to their their talent for 4 years.
Which is amazing.
That is amazing. But Armando Baycock makes more money in college than he would make in the NBA. Because he would only get like a veteran's minimum. Because he's not that great of a player on the professional level. But at North Carolina, he can make his $2 or $3 million on his NIL deals. He's the most popular person in North Carolina, and he's gonna make that money, and he's gonna stay for 4 years. But back in the days when they had Tyler Hansbrough, who stayed for 35 years as well,
right?
They'll get the churn. Look at
Adam Morrison.
Yeah, look at the churn. Like these guys are not staying for 4 years because it hurts their stock to stay for 4 years. Because you're going to find a blemish in their game after staying for 4 years.
All right, so let me ask you this then. March 4th, before the brackets are released, give me my top 4 teams that have a chance of winning a title.
North Carolina, Duke, South Carolina.
This is men's basketball.
Yes, South Carolina men. They're super sneaky good. And the 4th is just I think it's gonna be on whoever hits. But those are my top 3 right now.
There you go. You heard it here first.
I think the Gamecock boys, they got it cooking. They figured some stuff out.
You heard it here first, friends. All right. This is a quick, easy topic.
Russ Bust.
No. Please read the whole title.
Russ Bust.
Russ Bust. So, for those of you who are living under a rock today or just only focusing on Eagles football, what you also needed to find out was that Russell Wilson has been released from his absolutely ridiculously stupid contract over in Denver, where he served as a quarterback for 1 year or 2?
2
years. 2 years, 2 head coaches, and lost out on the job to
a rando
NPC quarterback, right? There is already a lot of talk about where he could end up. How much does Russell Wilson still have in the tank? And tell me why he's going to be a Pittsburgh Steeler.
I knew you're going there.
I already told you I was.
And I'm okay with that.
I don't hate the move, by the way.
No, I don't either. Pittsburgh, we have no quarterback. And even if we took him for a year or 2, just to give maybe small hands a chance to develop some, or this to just find somebody else in the draft, be bad enough where we can get a draft pick. He can suffice in Pittsburgh. I think he's kind of built for Pittsburgh, to be honest. And and
Javier saying makes total sense. I mean, I could see, because there is so much up in the air with Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
And they've got they've got a really strong defensive side of the ball.
For sure. We always do.
Right. They've got a very talented running back in Najee.
Who cares about running backs?
But what I'm saying is you've got some of the pieces around him, which make a guy like Russell Wilson, who has lived and thrived off of the play action his entire career, work. Because who is running the ball in Denver?
They got Javonte Williams.
Who?
They got the Williams guy.
Right, but what I'm saying is if you are somebody who relies on the running back for play action, having a guy like Tomlin call your plays where he's going to run the ball, making an actual threat, and he's also going to want to pass, I just think that I do think that's a pretty good marriage. Plus, like you said, it gives Pickett a chance to see if he's got it. I could also see him heading over to Tennessee. But again, in that kind of tutelage role.
And let's be real. I agree with Javier is saying here. We don't have anything to lose as a Steeler fan. You don't have anything.
No, they're not going to use the running backs, but they have one.
Hold on. We use Najee Harris. Actually, way too much.
Yeah, well, that's true. They putting some miles on the tires.
Yeah, the dude's getting that Derrick Henry treatment. But I will say this: you have some younger, and the Steelers don't want to spend money.
No.
So when you don't want to spend money, you have to then cut corners on other stuff.
Right. That's why they're always playing catch up.
Exactly. They want to cut corners
because they're Heinz Field. Go ahead.
All right. Well. All right. Okay. And so you get guys they had some guys down the line. They have Deontay Johnson. They got some other guys that are younger receivers. That
y'all got a pretty good tight end too, if I'm correct.
Yeah, we do, and we could benefit from having a veteran quarterback. So like, I think it's a good marriage, and there's also some other quarterback names that got thrown out that'll be available, and so I think this is the best year if we need to get like a placeholder. It's a good time for us. We just got to get some people around him that can help.
And I think that there's other places where Russ could end up. I think he could potentially end up in Vegas. That way he can get close to the Sierra vertical that's going to be there.
Yeah, residency.
Yeah, she's going to get a residency at the Bellagio or whatever. I could see him ending up in Arizona because the Kyler Murray thing is just not working.
Well, they're the same dude. One's just older.
But that's my point. Like I really could see. So if he goes to Vegas, it's as I'm the starter, win now mentality. No question. If he goes to a team like Tennessee, if he goes to a team like Arizona, if he goes to a team like the Steelers, it is as a tutelage. I am a expert level. I'm going to keep the seat warm and show the young buck how to do it. So it really depends on what Russ sees himself at this point in his career.
And he's a true professional. So let's
he is a professional. That I will say.
Because all that drama that was going on in Denver, he never mentioned anything to the media. Like, even though it was straight BS, like he was getting blamed for a lot of stuff that was going wrong in Denver, and he didn't have nobody. Like he
thanked the cafeteria workers today.
He was going to be out there. He's going to be. He had a better. He was because he had some cafeteria workers working for him, throwing the ball to him. Like that's how.
David says he thinks that Russell could end up a Raider. He didn't hate that idea that I just had.
Nobody that is a struggling team right now is going to be upset with Russell Wilson. And
listen, if the Commanders didn't have the second pick in the draft, I would say he would be in Washington. But they're going to waste it on a quarterback, and they're going to waste it on Drake May.
And let's call a spade a spade. Teams like the Steelers who have a decent defense, they don't need like this dynamic quarterback. Like we don't need a dynamic quarterback. We have a really, really good defense. Yeah. But we're up against like some guy we got to deal with. We got to deal with Lamar Jackson every year. We got to deal with my man out in Cincinnati. You got to deal with all these guys.
What if Russell Wilson? Yeah. Titans won't. I agree that they got too many other holes to fill, and Patriots won't take a chance on him. Yeah, because he's an actual quarterback, and we know Bill Belichick's successor, Jared Mayo. I mean, we don't know what Jared Mayo's interested in doing yet. So I'm actually curious to see what the Patriots are going to do. They had to just build from the ground up. I think that Russ wants, if I was guessing, wants to be in a situation where he can win if the pieces around him are good, which means he's going to be in a almost there team.
And let's just throw this out there just because we haven't talked about it. But people have forgot about Aaron Rodgers coming back. Aaron
Rodgers is coming back, yeah.
And that makes
maybe he'll last a whole minute this season.
And so Zach Wilson is going to be on the chopping block.
He's already gone. He's gone. He is not going to be a Jet.
Well, that's fine. But think about it. I would take him.
So David, I was literally about to say this.
Then you're going to Cleveland?
Going to Cleveland because the Deshaun Watson thing has not worked out.
So this is what I know. I heard this on talk radio today, and I didn't want to believe it.
Okay.
But they were saying that Deshaun Watson can end up being a Steeler by the time it's all over.
Oh.
How
would you feel about that?
I would love that.
Oh.
I'm telling you, dude. Like,
I didn't know the parlors were that good down in Pittsburgh.
Cleveland has absolutely nobody. Like they
false. Hold on.
Who they got?
Here's the thing, right?
Who they got?
The fact that they put 4 different quarterbacks in there and still were able to make the playoff run that they did with Joe Flacco.
Listen to what I'm trying to tell you, bro. Is that the reason that it didn't matter who they put in there because they were trash. They just got hot.
I disagree.
Name 3 players on the team outside of the quarterbacks.
Myles Garrett.
Now on the defense side of the ball.
David Njoku.
He got his face almost burnt off.
Doesn't matter. He can still catch a ball.
Okay, fair enough. He can dodge a ball.
Kareem Hunt, who's there now, but he'll be gone.
Yes. So now he's gone. So
I forget who the running back that they're going to replace him with is, though.
Nick Chubb's done forever.
Chubb. No, he's not. Then they wouldn't get rid of Kareem Hunt.
Listen, Nick Chubb is done forever.
No. Amari Cooper. Yep.
Amari Cooper's like 105 years old.
But he's still putting out numbers.
What are we doing, guys?
And that offensive line, now that Kelsey is retired, is the best offensive line in football.
Okay, but we need to stop the madness about saying Cleveland has a good team.
I'm just gonna leave the frame while you take care of this comment.
David, what are we doing? Like, we're not doing this. Like, we're not. I'm not going to.
You have to read that David said.
I ain't hear what it said. They would
Mac Jones in the true Pittsburgh fashion will sign the next mediocre white guy to play quarterback for the team.
Listen, we need a black dude. Like, I don't care.
That's your MO. That's your guys' MO. What mediocre quarterback can we sign?
Listen, we had Cordell Stewart before. We had.
I love Slash. I love Slash.
You know what I'm saying? We had him, so don't do us like that. We had Cordell Stewart for like 10 years.
Right, and after Big Ben, it's been what mediocre white quarterback can we sign? Mac Jones would fit in perfectly with the Mason Rudolph, Kenny Pickett's, and the Mitch Trubisky's of the world.
We're only 1 year removed for Ben Roethlisberger, so let's just do that. Let's just be honest about that.
2.
No, 1.
Pickett was a rookie this year?
Basically.
Not basically. If he was either a rookie or he
wasn't. I'm sorry. We tried the mediocre white man for 2 years. I'm sorry.
Thank you, sir.
But that's only 2 years, so don't say like we have this revolving door. It was Cordell Stewart, and then it was Ben Roethlisberger for like 20 years.
Right.
So we haven't had this like mediocre white man thing. Like, so let's not say that.
Sir.
Here we go. Let's read this. Let's see.
If the Steelers want to win the Super Bowl, they need a new coach 2 years from Big Ben. Wow, he said Tomlin needs to get the axe.
I don't know if you can say that.
Mr. Mediocre? Mr. 500 plus?
Listen, it's a lot of people playing 500. I can tell you.
A lot of people. Yo, Mike Vrabel's over there going, I would love to be Mr. 500.
I would love to be 500. Like, come on, man. Like, the guy's going to retire without ever having a losing season.
That's wild. He wants to forget about Mitch so badly. Mitch Trubisky.
Yeah, that was the word. Because you got to remember, I'm a Clemson fan, so I was there when they took Mitch Trubisky over Deshaun Watson, and it was the worst situation that ever happened in life. Maybe they knew about the Pollers. Maybe they knew about it as rubdowns.
I mean, if you guys are really in the quarterback market, I'm pretty sure you can convince Chase Daniel to come out of retirement.
Stop it, Ryan. How many Super Bowl appearances?
With mediocre white men.
Oh, like none.
Yeah, sounds about white. Moving on.
In his defense, Cordell Stewart didn't go either, so.
Yo, but he could punt, pass, and kick.
That's true.
Oh, all right. Stop right there.
Oh.
I am.
It's been a long day.
Yeah.
Without you, my friend.
We knew after the playoff game when we got mollywopped that it was probably going to happen, and then Jason Kelsey went ahead and gave some time for the pain of the offseason to kick in, and he just realized, like, he went on a Super Bowl run with his brother again, and he just realized that it wasn't gonna happen. David saying, he knows Jason personally, he's a great dude. Yeah. How about the fact that Jason Kelsey as a center became such a face of the NFL? Talk about a position that never gets that level of recognition.
I can't name 5 centers on other teams.
I can't either.
In the history of football. I
probably can if I really thought about it.
I can.
If I really thought about it, I'm not doing that live on the air. I'm not going to do that right this second. I'd have to really think about it. Yeah. You look at Jason Kelsey, the man, and so maybe 2-3 years ago, right after the Super Bowl, I said that Jason Kelsey, in my opinion, was a Hall of Famer. And at that point, he was kind of on the cusp of it, right? He had gotten a Super Bowl win, but he was still on the cusp of it. Everything that he has done over these last couple of years, where it was, his podcast with his brother, where he's being a face, where he's being a father, where everything that Jason Kelsey has done at the level that he did it. I mean, he still made the All-Pro this year. So it's not like he retired because he was losing a step. He was still playing at a level. Jason Kelsey, like like David said, wanted to be a dad. He has all these beautiful girls at home, and I respect him for it. I respect that he will be one of the most popular Eagles of all time. I will not say that he's the greatest Eagle of all time.
I don't know, bro.
Because you still have Brian Dawkins. Dawkins is so. Here's listen what I'm going to say. He is not the greatest Eagle of all time. Brian Dawkins
have the championship?
Hold on. Brian Dawkins, Reggie White, these are guys that are great. What I will say about Jason Kelce is he is the most Philadelphia Eagle of all time. There is nobody in the history of the franchise that has embodied this franchise more than Jason Kelce.
All right. I'm going to stop you. I'm going to rewind this thing back a little bit. I'm going to run the tape back. First of all, people will say Brian Dawkins is the number one Eagle. But you got to realize that to be the best at something, you got to have the most. I think you have to have a win. I think you got to have a big one to even be considered.
Okay.
Brian Dawkins don't have the big one. And Jason Kelce does. At the position that he's in, what makes you the best, you have to make that position iconic.
And yes. So you know what? And on top of one other thing that I will actually make him, I'm gonna amend my statement. Jason Kelce is the greatest Eagle of all time.
He has to be.
Because if it's side by side with him and Dawkins, the only thing that changes it is Kelce spent his entire career here. And Brian Dawkins, rightfully so, went elsewhere to chase that championship at the last minute.
And if I can be completely frank about this thing, and I love honesty.
Mm-hmm.
I can't, when I think about the last 5 to 7 years of the Eagles run, when they've been really on top.
Thank you, David. Appreciate you.
There's not a guy that embodies the city more than him.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, he's the perfect Philadelphia Eagle.
And furthermore than that, like it ain't like he didn't have a cakewalk through the thing either. Like they said he was too small. They said he would never be a center at that position.
I will one up you because I found it today.
Let's do it.
The Philadelphia Eagles, the day that they drafted him,
tried to trade him.
No. On Twitter, spelled his name wrong.
Oh, that hurts.
Kelcey.
Oh, man.
Name a better player that embodies the sport currently. I think, David, I would be hard pressed to.
That embodies their city or the sport?
That embodies football. I would be hard pressed.
You'd be hard pressed to find anybody that doesn't have the last name Kelce. I tell you that.
No, because even Travis has got a little bit of the pretty boy persona. And you think of football, you think of nitty gritty, and you look at a guy like Jason Kelce and you look through some of his highlights where, he's got the screwed up arm and his teammates are kind of locking his arm back in place and fixing his pads for him because he can't lift his arm up. And you look at how the fact that he started all the games in a row that he did and setting the franchise record at a position that is extremely, extremely physical.
And he watched his entire rest of his offensive line.
You look at a guy like, you look at the tush push or the brotherly shove, which will not be as effective next year without him. Let's just call it like it is.
That's just Will. The tush push, the brotherly shove, that is all Will. And that's all that he embodied. Like, guy played with broken fingers. Like, it almost, I'm not a diehard Eagles fan. So I can say this as a non-diehard Eagles fan. That, like, now when I think about the Eagles, I'm going to have a hard time watching it without him out there.
Yeah. And that's
I'm going to be looking for him.
That's what I was saying a second ago, where when he decided to retire, the team became not as good as they were yesterday.
And think about this whole Jalen Hurts, like his whole trajectory, right?
Right.
And everybody downed him. Think about the perfect guy to be in his ear to help him get through that.
And even a guy like Cam Jurgens, who they drafted when they drafted him, It was Kelsey who went, this is the guy in the draft who was closest to me. It is his hand-picked successor.
Who's going to argue with that guy? Who's going to be like, oh, no, we can't take him? Like, who's going to do that?
And I will say, whether
he's the best Eagle ever.
And I like I said, I amended my statement because of the playing with the team the whole way. I think that you have legacy players and they come and go. Yeah, it just so happens that, David, right now we're kind of in a golden age of Eagles football where we have so many of these legacy players. Where you have the Brandon Graham, the Fletcher Cox, the Jason Kelsey. And, Fletcher Cox probably is going to retire. That snuck out. Brandon Graham's probably going to come back. That snuck out. But when we're talking about Jason Kelsey, I think he does go down as the greatest Eagle of all time simply because he was here the whole time.
And last thing I'm going to say about it, like the guy, everything he touches turns to gold.
Yeah, because he's just a decent dude.
He's real. Like he's just real. Like I've even enjoyed, even though I can't stand the whole Kansas City, the circus they got going on. Yep. It was so cool to see him.
Oh my God.
In the booth.
Like, it was really funny because there's Taylor Swift trying to be like, and there's Jason Kelsey ripping shots and
shotgunning
drunk
beers.
And he's shirtless in Buffalo and he's jumping.
His nipples are out.
He's just a dude.
He's just a dude. Like, so shout out to Jason Kelsey.
Shout out to Jason Kelsey. Thank you for everything. I mean, I'm not big on retiring numbers just because I think it happens too much. But with a guy who spent his entire career here, is a Super Bowl champion, is going to be a surefire Hall of Famer, I think he can retire 62. I don't think anyone else should touch it.
And if you're going to do this, you got to bring up, even though people want to say Reggie White is the best, one of the best.
He went to Green Bay and most of his success came in Green Bay.
That's why you can't say Reggie White.
David, it's an if-then situation. If it happens, then we'll talk about it. But right now, I can't. Kelsey's the Super Bowl champion.
If Hurts does do so, because you got to think about Hurts. Jason Kelsey was the center for the Super Bowl, number one. Mm-hmm. For the guy that really shouldn't have probably been able to win a Super Bowl.
It was the lightning in a bottle team. It was a bunch of nobodies.
Then he has the iconic speech.
Dressed as a mummer, so he understands the city.
Yeah, he knows what's popping. He knows what's up. Like
you can be a great player, and then you can be legendary.
And he's never leaving Pennsylvania. Like,
no, because his wife is a coach over at Lower Merion.
Yeah, he's never leaving.
I think, and I love that we're spending the time on this. Lane Johnson is a legend. I'm going to disagree that he's even in the same realm as Kelsey. The only thing where he could have a conversation that he's in the same realm is for the mental health advocacy that he has helped bring to light.
I will give you that. But he's been hurt more than.
But he's been hurt, and he hasn't been Kelsey didn't miss games.
Just didn't miss. Dude, he don't miss. You ever seen a guy that says that when Snoop Dogg says he don't miss?
Well, he doesn't miss both on the field and everything, like you said, everything he touches.
And I love his podcast. I love his podcast.
His podcast is great. Some of these are going to be pretty quick. Oh, this is not going to be quick though.
Let's talk that talk. I'm so glad I'm about to tear you guys a new one.
Okay. So it has come into question that the Philadelphia fan base might have a problem.
Trash.
I would like to say that I am not a part of the problem.
There is a problem, though.
I am not part of the problem, even though there is a problem. That problem looks like people trying to, say that Jalen Hurts doesn't need to be the quarterback, even though he led him to a Super Bowl last year. It would be the fan base saying that, good riddance to Jason Kelsey, because I heard that on the radio today. That guy should have been shot. It's saying guys like Tobias Harris are garbage and then getting really quiet when he has a couple games in a row.
Yeah.
It's saying that people should trade Joel Embiid. It's listening to people like Steven Nelson, who had one crap season with the Eagles and then started talking trash, or CJ Gardner-Johnson, who then talked trash about the fan base. And, Scott Rowland, who for some reason is on the Phillies Wall of Fame, who I would never have put there because, again, he didn't do anything as a Philly. He did things as a Cardinal. But then you got guys like, Then you got guys like, Cole Hamels, who loved it here. You got guys like Aaron Nola, who's going to stay here. Guys like Wheeler, who are going to stay here. Bryce Harper, who's going to stay here. Kelsey addressed it today. Okay. I'm going to quote newly retired Jason Kelsey, and then I'm going to turn it over to you, JD, because I knew that this conversation was going to come. David over here saying Philly fans are ruthless, however, live in KC and they're harsh too. There's a difference between harsh and ruthless. We're going to talk about that. Jason Kelsey said that it's in order to kind of be successful. I'm going to paraphrase. In order to be successful in Philadelphia, you have to love the game and love this city like you love your brother. Meaning, you guys are going to butt heads. It's going to be some tough love, but you know that there's always love there. And you and I have had the conversation, and you know how I feel that if you just play hard, if you just give your all, we're going to respect you. We're going to give you some crap when you slack off a little bit, but we're going to love you. This offseason has not been a great one for the Philadelphia Eagles. A.J. Brown, what the hell's going on? Hassan Reddick, what the hell's going on? I'm going to pause there.
There's 30 for 30 is going to be amazing.
JD, go easy on me. Go easy on me. I'm wounded in the Kelsey today.
I don't want to kick you in the. I don't want to kick you in the Kelsey.
Please don't kick me in the Kelsey. That's my new T-shirt. Please don't kick me in the Kelsey. Zach Ertz, who, yeah. Would you be a fan if you just sat back and said, it's okay, we suck, tough love makes respect? Okay. You have the floor. If I'm too big right now, do your thing.
Okay. So first of all, number one is there's okay to be tough fans. Like Pittsburgh has tough fans. Like Kansas City has tough fans. The level on which these people, these Eagles, Phillies, Flyers, Sixer fans that they go is almost like these athletes owe them something.
Agreed.
It's almost like we own you because you play for us, and I don't know if anyone pays anyone's salary. And so when I think about the way that they treat these athletes in Philadelphia, it's almost like they expect them to do something. But what I will use the analogy is like, let's say you're a flight attendant. If you're really bad at your job, nobody goes on the internet and completely trashes you about the way that you didn't bring them those little packaged peanuts, or that you didn't bring them a bottle of water, or that you didn't bring the complimentary little wine on your flight. But if, Lord forbid, one of these players from Philadelphia has a bad game, a bad month, a bad year, like they're destroying this guy on talk radio. They're destroying him on Twitter. They're destroying these guys. Some of these guys have mental health issues when they leave here. It's almost like they get shell-shocked after they play in Philly. And there's been multiple accounts. Yeah, you might say Nelson is wrong, but Nelson played in Pittsburgh before that, which they're just as tough.
Okay, go.
They're just as tough. Nelson may not be the answer, but I'm telling you that it's not just him. Everybody that leaves and doesn't like Philly isn't a crybaby. Some of this is on Philly. Like, some of this ain't on the players. Some of this is on them. So you can't say 10 people say something about you, just like the Deshaun Watson situation. 20 girls can't come out about you and say that you're the problem, and you be like, nah, it was them. It was them. Like, no, it wasn't them. It was you. Like, you're half of the problem. Maybe they're crybaby, and maybe Nelson is a scrub, but some of the stuff that he's saying is facts. Like, there's a reason why guys need therapy when they leave Philadelphia. Like, and that's not so much that they can't make mistakes, but look at the level of disrespect when they do talk about these guys. Like, Jalen Hurts has been to the playoffs almost every year that he's been the starting quarterback. And he went to the Super Bowl, by the way. But they've anointed anointed Donovan McNabb because he went to the Super Bowl and lost. Why is Jalen Hurts not getting the same treatment? They defended Carson Wentz for 45 years while he sucked up the joint.
Sounds about right.
Sounds about right.
While
he sucked up the joint, people were getting into fights about how good the guy was. The guy had one good season, and he didn't even finish that season. He had to turn it over to the other guy. Mm-hmm. So at the end of the day, like,
all right,
I just can't. Like, Bryce Harper called hell. The other guy made a shirt that says, "I hate it here."
Okay, so let's because the Phillies are coming up, I'm going to focus there for a second.
Okay? I hate it here.
Alec Boehm got caught on camera in frustration. He came out and owned it.
I hate it here.
He came out and owned it, right? He said, look, I screwed up. Yeah, it sucks that I just got booed, but you know what? I wouldn't have it any other way. He's now become a staple here as much as possible. This team was heartbroken. The city was heartbroken when Rhys Hoskins decided to move on. This team is heartbroken because of Jason Kelce. Trey Turner was having a rough start, had a huge contract. So, yeah, the idea that people feel like they owe it, I get that point because, we talk all the time that Philly's a blue-collar city. Ain't that blue-collar? It's expensive as hell to go to games here. Okay? It is expensive as hell to go to games here. That's why people are pissed off that Dollar Dog Night is not a thing anymore. I wasn't even going to talk about that, but Dollar Dog Night is gone, man. We lost Jason Kelce and Dollar Dog Night in the same week.
I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry. That stinks.
So they organized like a standing ovation for the guy.
Markel Fultz.
And what does he do? He hits a dinger in his first at bat. Great. Now, let's have a standing ovation for Tobias Harris. Let's have a standing ovation. So it's actually got to the point where Philly, it's not even so much that they think they're owed. They are entitled to believe. David, thank you for tuning in, man. You were phenomenal with the comments. Check in. We're going to try and do this more often.
For sure.
Philly fans believe that they have this kind of superpower where they control things. And you watch a movie like The Silver Linings Playbook, yes, right? Where it was this idea that, and we know that people are superstitious. We get that. But in Philly, people really believe it.
It's different.
It's different. And, we can, and I think Kelce really, he spent a portion of his speech,
cheesesteak sauce.
Whiz wit. And we signed a guy whose last name is Witt.
That's gonna be nice.
I love Philadelphia sports. Obviously, I wouldn't do a sports podcast if I didn't. It's just like in all religions and all fan bases, you have this extremism. And Javier, I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with it.
What do you mean?
Hold on. The extremists, there's something wrong with.
Yes.
I am not focusing on the extremists. I am focusing on the mass majority of fans who live and die with their teams. That is very Philadelphia. I am not talking about the ones who are abusive. I am not talking about the ones who are hate-filled. I am not talking about the ones who are unrealistic. I am not talking about the extremists, just like I would not talk about them with religion, with politics. I am not talking about the fanatics. The fanaticism is too much. So I am talking about the players. I'm talking about the fans who love their team through and through.
And I'm with you on that, Chip. I'm not mad. But think about
it's the squeaky wheels that you always hear. That's the problem.
It is the squeaky wheel. But the squeaky wheel punched the police horse through things that Santa.
You're bringing up things from 50 years ago. The
police horse was not 50 years ago.
All right, hold on. I'm talking about the snowball thing. Okay, you cannot continue to bring that up when the guy who did it is probably not able to throw anything right now because he's old as hell.
That's true. So I'll take the Santa thing away. Okay, but the police horse, the burning cars in the street, the rioting.
It's been a minute since we won something, all right? But this is why we can't have nice things. But this is why we can't have nice things.
There used to be a freaking jail under the stadium.
But there's not anymore. This is my point, right? This is my point. And this is where, they got rid of Dollar Dog Night, and I'm heartbroken about it. But think about why they got rid of Dollar Dog Night. Because the extremists, are throwing hot dogs and the lines that are, gargantuanly long. I'm pissed off that people can't let us have nice things or Philadelphian-based Johns. I'm pissed off that they can't let us have the Johns that we want.
I'm with you. I don't want that for you either. I don't want that for you either.
I just want my Johns.
You should get your Johns. But I will tell you that in there's truth to what you said. There's truth in the fact that there are extremists. There are your your Delco people that we talk about so often that just happen. If it ain't white, it ain't right. And a lot of times, being in this inner city team, you're going to have to deal with some stuff that don't necessarily look like you.
It doesn't happen often, Javier. I'm
you
not
are
usually the voice. I try.
You are the voice of reason, but there's more people that will agree with the extremists than they want to. Because there's a lot less people like you, Chip.
It's the gang mentality.
Yeah, we're gonna just go jump on him.
So let me tell you something, right? I grew up in a household where, and I'm not. My mother is a tough woman to love sometimes.
Okay. Fair enough.
She is convinced that the refs are always out to get us.
Well, they are most of the time.
But they're not.
They are, though.
They're not. They're just crappy refs.
No, I get that, Chip, but like I'm telling you, as a coach, I'm telling you, there's
the refs are not always out to get Philadelphia, is my point.
I don't know, but if you're always the one on the bad end of the bad referee, then it's sometimes you're. I don't know, man.
She is convinced of that. Well, in the early 2000s, yes. In the early, and now, no. Now we get a lot more calls than we used to.
You do, but you still been cheated in the link, and that's hard to do.
Right. Convinced that conspiracies are against the teams from Philadelphia. I can't look at it that way.
You might not want to, but it's out there.
But it's out there, but as an excuse. I try desperately to not make excuses. Like, if it's on paper why the Eagles fell apart this year, it's not because of some ancient vet stadium voodoo curse that Santa put on us, right? It's just not. Although I get it, he's still pissed from 50 years ago.
Most people are too.
But again, I just, the fanaticism is too much. And like I said, it's not that we deserve it. It's the fact that people believe it. And not to get political, but fanaticism is the way of the world right now.
I'm not mad about that. I'm with you. I'm riding with you.
And I refuse to do politics on this show, but people rather would believe in a person than the overall entity.
Yes, I'm with you.
Greater good.
Yeah, we're not going to talk about it, but I know exactly what you're talking about. I know what you're getting.
I'm trying to say it without saying it. You know what I'm
saying? You're saying it, and I get it, and I'm with you. I do believe that. And
people are temporary. Like, okay, let's do it this way, right? Had Kelsey decided to come back, okay, and he had a less than great season,
they would have tore his ass apart.
They would have lit him up. How dare you not retire? The same way they did Brett Favre, including me. I did the same thing with Brett Favre. Brett Favre should have retired 47 seasons before he decided to retire.
I did the same thing with Ben Roethlisberger.
Roethlisberger was the same way. I think that recency bias, what have you done for me lately? Sister Act 2. What have you done for me? I think it... Are we doing choreo now? What is this?
You know.
You down with G.O.D.?
If you know, you know.
I think that recency bias and the what have you done for me lately is a big problem.
Yeah.
Javier is so excited that we're back tonight.
I can feel his vibes.
He is loving what we are. Because you know what? I listen occasionally to the talk radio, and we give the people something different. We truly do. We still got a lot of topics. Let's see what we can knock out. We're not going to go for too much longer because we already had an hour. But I know there's some things on here we got to talk. All right.
Oh, yeah.
Easy. I'm ready for this one. Caitlin Clark. Caitlin Clark, much like Brittany Griner did while she was at Baylor. Much like Diana Taurasi did while she was at UConn. Much like Lisa Leslie, right?
Angel Wilson.
All of these women are doing everything they can to bring women's basketball to the forefront. I had the privilege this year of announcing both men's and women's basketball at my high school that I work at. I had more fun doing the girls' games because they knew everybody around them that was supporting them. Caitlin Clark just became the all-time leading scorer in NCAA history. That is men and women's.
Pete Maravich.
Right. Pistol Pete Maravich.
Pistol to Pete.
And she did it on a free throws, on a technical free throw, so she had the entire floor to herself. You also look at the fact that they are now including women in the special Steph Curry 3-point challenge, and she almost won the damn thing.
Well, she didn't almost win.
All right. Well, until it started, right?
Yeah. The hype was big, though.
We all know that Caitlin Clark is great. I'm gonna let you talk about it. But in your response, I would like to ask you the following question.
Okay.
When given the number 1 overall draft pick this year, can you name a better player for the Detroit Pistons to pick than Caitlin Clark?
Oh, you funny.
Name me one. I dare you.
I'll take RJ Davis.
Okay, fine.
But
Bronny James.
No. She can't hold it. He can't hold her jock strap, and she's not even wearing one.
He can't hold her bra strap.
She's probably not wearing one.
Moving on.
I will say, I've been saying this for the longest, that if you love college if you love basketball and your basketball peers, you love the women's game. It's poetry, man. As a basketball coach,
it's basketball.
It's basketball without all the added preservatives and BS and fluff. You're gonna get decent, really good coaches that know what they're doing, that are knowing how to scheme. They're going to be taking things away. They're going to be really coming up with game plans, and you're going to have some really, really talented girls. And I'm not meaning it like they play like girls. Like, I mean talented basketball players.
Talented basketball players
happen to be women. And these girls can shoot it. Like, they can flat out shoot it, score the basketball, play with a high IQ. Some of them have really high motors. I'm in awe. Like, now, like, when I was growing up, girls basketball sometimes looked a certain way, and you could kind of just be like, I'm not going to the girls game. Now, the girls game is just as packed as the boys game, and I coach high school basketball. So I am telling you now, we're about 4 or 5 years away. I'd say about 4 years away from having like this kind of like resurgence of basketball, where the girls game is going to make a huge jump. And with the correct backing, would they be as big as the NBA? Maybe not. But the product that they're going to be putting out is going to be better than the NBA.
All right, so I'm going to push back.
Let's do it.
I'm going to push back, not because I don't want your vision of the future to happen, because I do. I would really like your vision of the future to come true. Because like Conway was saying, right? Women's college hoops is fire, right? And such a shame that the men are the main people who consume it. The women need to get in it, right? And that's where sports fall apart, right? So sports viewers are mostly men. Think about when the WNBA a couple of years ago was just about there. Who was sitting front row at all the games that he could?
LeBron.
Kobe.
LeBron. Yeah.
With his daughter. Now Steph Curry is trying to do the same thing. He's trying to sit front row as many games as possible. But those are still guys doing those things. And Conway here saying, right, so many more star players than the men's games. But it's easier to be considered a star in men's basketball than it is in women's basketball. You have to be
a star,
a absolute dominant star, and there's only 2 or 3 at a time. And to me, like, I hear what you're saying about it's on the cusp.
Yeah.
Girls soccer had that chance. Problem is that soccer's not a big enough sport, so I understand that it's not exactly parallel. But the women's soccer team, national soccer team, pretty much since it started has been better than the men's soccer team in the United States.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Right. And then they started winning World Cups, and it was very exciting. You knew, Mia Hamm, and you knew a couple of these people.
Julie Ertz,
right? You know a couple of their names, but it's just not ever going to be the same because, like Javier said, the main consumer of sports are men. And the problem is, and this is still all the way down, if you are, when you are growing up, right, if you decide to go the athletic route, because you're taller, you've got a more muscular build, you've got more athletic abilities, whatever it is. You are immediately de-womanized for it. You're a tomboy.
Hold on.
You're a jock. Oh, you play like the men.
That's true. But I saw a post the other day.
Okay.
And they showed the WNBA's, the face of the WNBA. Who do you think the face of the WNBA is right now?
I couldn't tell you.
It's A'ja Wilson.
Okay. And she's a rookie, right?
No. A'ja Wilson is like a 3-time MVP. She's won 2 or 3 WNBA.
Who am I thinking of? Who's still in college basketball now? Plays for LSU.
Oh, that's Angel Reese.
Got it. Okay.
Okay. So now I want you to think about this. A'ja Wilson has the only statue outside of Lou Holtz in the University of South Carolina history. Number 2, A'ja Wilson looks like a woman. Like, she looks like a lady, very pretty lady. She's actually one of my favorite. And if you think about it more and more, they're going away from this masculine version of a woman. And that's because this is what happened. They did these icebreakers a couple years ago, and they said, what's making you not watch the WNBA?
Sure.
And dudes just flat out said, like, if I'm gonna watch girls play, I want to watch girls play, not little dudes. And so what they've done is they've not only capitalized, but look at the top players right now. It's Sabrina Ionescu, very pretty girl. Caitlin Clark is being more feminized every day. Like, she's wearing earrings and stuff. Angel Reese, like a very, very pretty girl. She's a sorority girl. And then you have A'ja Wilson, one of the most beautiful women that in the world, not even just basketball players. So now you're starting to see they're going away from even Deladon, like, because it was just like, I don't want to, and I'm not trying to be nasty, but they were just saying that, yeah. But the consumer is there, because you got to remember, they're about to start a CBA. And that's another thing that people don't realize is that the NBA is about to acquire the WNBA and put them make them part of the CBA. And if they don't do right by the WNBA, they're going to lose money. And that's
the same way that, the XFL and the whatever FL merged to be basically a NFL feeder league.
Yeah.
But that's my pushback on that, right? So I'm not saying that, again, in the perfect world, I love what you're saying. I really, really do. And I want it to be there. And I will do my part to try to watch these games.
Right.
But when you look at the typical fan.
Oh, yeah. The casual fan?
Casual fan, it is a overweight male whose line is, I could do better than so-and-so. And the mental lock that has been there since the dawn of time is still, well, and they even did it with the Sabrina Seth shootout, right? Oh, well, she used a women's ball.
Okay.
So they diminish the feats of women. So even if all of these things happen, and I do believe that they are, even if all these things happen, there's still going to be that mentality of that they are a sub-athlete to the male.
That is true. But this is another part I want to get at.
This is a really good conversation, by the way. I
love
this topic.
And I'm with it. And I like the back, because you're giving me like the devil's advocate, and I love it. So what's happening is, so think about it. Do you know when the WNBA season is right now?
It's after the NBA season.
But do you know when it is?
I don't.
Do you know when the playoffs start?
Is it during like are you saying when does the women's season playoffs start? During preseason for the NBA, right?
Right. Do you know why that is, and why that it wasn't always like that?
So you have basketball year round.
Yeah, basketball year round.
And you're not fighting for viewers.
You're not fighting for viewers with the NBA.
But see, here's the thing. So same counter argument. I hear what you're saying, but you're telling me people watch the XFL and the AFL because it is the filler for the NFL?
No, because that is a different type of caliber, because you're not getting the same type.
But what
you got college football.
But what I'm saying, JD, is you mentioned the word caliber, and to the casual fan, and Conway, I agree. Hoopers love hoops. So they're going to watch basketball. That's why you saw Kobe. That's why you saw Seth at these WNBA games because they want to watch basketball. They want to support their daughters as they get into that. They're a different species. They're a different class of what I'm talking about.
You're talking about the casual fan, though.
I'm talking about the casual fan. You just mentioned caliber. To the casual fan, the WNBA is a sub-caliber to the NBA.
But that's because they've made it that way because they haven't promoted it.
Correct.
So now,
but you're not going to be able to change years and years and years and centuries of misogyny.
Right. But what you're not understanding is like it's never been pushed by men before.
And that's the key. And it's funny because, again, not to up there because this is a sports show. This is light and friendly.
That's true.
But I learned a couple of years ago that with all the race stuff that happens, I have to be an advocate. Not overwhelming.
That's it.
Because it's not my journey, but I have to be supportive because me saying something
is different.
Than you saying something.
Or them. So here we go. So now I'm gonna bring you back to why I believe this.
I love our show, man. I know we're on the air, but I love our show.
So this is why I want to bring you back because I talked to you about this collective bargaining agreement that other sports don't have. The NFL just got one.
Right.
In the WNBA is less than 35 years old. It is young. It is younger than I am. Yet and still, if you look at the growth that the WNBA has made compared to the NBA in its infancy years, it is light years ahead of the NBA in its infancy.
I like that there's a WNBA component on NBA 2K.
And
they're trying to get their way in there very casually.
Right, but you got to think about you're not looking at the defeats and who's promoting it. The NBA is going to start promoting it because they're a part of the collective bargaining agreement. And as you know, nobody likes more money than men, and men want to make money off whatever they can. So now, when you think about it, the fact that you don't watch the game sometimes is because you don't know what it is. But now think about there are only 12 to 15 WNBA teams. So there's stars on every team. So think about this. The Aces and the Liberty played, and it was a big game. You had Asia Wilson versus Sabrina Ionescu. It was Stewie versus, Kelsey Plum. Like it was just all these parity, right? Now they're going to promote it so much more that you're going to know, man, dang, on Thursday at like Friday nights, like who watches NBA on Friday nights? No freaking body.
Nobody at all.
But they promote the heck out of it. You see it everywhere. So just so happens you're at home that night. Now you're watching it.
So, and I think the other thing, like coaching, right? Pat Summitt is one of the greatest coaches of all time, men's or women's.
Yeah.
Right. Just a great coach. Gino Auriemma, also great coach, but looks like us, is a guy. Mm-hmm. I think another thing that you have to start pushing is the idea that, okay, you could be a great player, but female coaches are also a thing. Becky Hammon needs an NBA job. Dawn Staley needs to continue the journey that she's on. Right? Mm-hmm. This is interesting.
Let's do it.
Not too long before you see a WNBA, NBA doubleheader with teams in the same city. Now, that's going to be tough to do.
It's not, though.
But again, not trying to poo-poo everything that you guys are saying because, again, I love the vision.
Right.
But just talking about the logistics of it, I have spent the last 15 minutes arguing that the WNBA is considered a subclass to the NBA. Okay. With this idea, if you have the WNBA game first, you're going to have lower attendance and is acting like a JV warm-up. If you decide to put the WNBA game after, you're going to have people leave or tune out.
Not necessarily. So this is why you got to read this collective bargaining agreement that they have. They're basically going to charge every NBA team with having a WNBA team in the same building.
But then you're watering it down.
You're not, though, because think about it. 32 teams. Like, think about how many women are great college players and never get an opportunity to play in the WNBA because there's only 12 teams. So once you start adding teams and you're adding, it changes the ball game.
But see, this is where you lose me on the argument, because then you have watered down talent. I said it's easy to become a superstar in the NBA, right? Because you got 30 teams, somebody's got to be the star of the team. So right now the Sixers are blessed with a Joel Embiid, and they're blessed with, with Tyrese Maxey, but Tobias Harris gets paid like a superstar
because he's on the max deal.
He's on a max deal, but he's clearly not a superstar, but he was a superstar at one point. Every team, like I play 2K. I love 2K. Right? You look at a guy like Pascal Siakam. Mm-hmm. Pascal Siakam just had a huge situation where now he's a Pacer. Pascal Siakam, in my mind, is not a top 20 player in the NBA.
Maybe not.
Okay. But he's getting traded and paid like one. So if you're telling me that the solution for the WNBA is that each NBA team has a sub-NBA WNBA program, you're watering down the talent level. No. And you're going to start elevating people to superstardom that are not actually superstars.
So what's the G League for?
For developing talent. But you can't name a lot of guys who are G League graduates that are superstars on teams.
So Gigi Jackson is the one for this year.
Okay.
There's always one. And before, Jalen Brunson played G League first. So there's always going to be these guys who are going to slip through the cracks. Like Mac McClung, he's going to slip through the cracks at some point.
But Mac McClung is not an NBA superstar. He is a dunk superstar.
Right. But
also why? Because he is a small white dude that can dunk.
Yes, and it looks amazing.
It's awesome. I love it.
So let's just do this for a second. Humor me for a minute.
I'll humor you all night. This is one of the best conversations I think you and I have ever had.
More than likely. So if we say this, and I understand, and I a little bit agree with you. The problem with it is if you make the NBA liable for the content and their success, then they have no choice but to back it. Because if you look at the numbers, and like I said, the infancy of the WNBA, the numbers are there. You just have to remember that your demographic that you're speaking to is only 12 cities. So you don't have this huge, large market where you only have, think about the teams that have teams. You have Las Vegas, which
the fact
everything
that Philadelphia doesn't have a team has blown my mind since the inception of the league.
Exactly. So now think about this. Think about Philadelphia has to get a WNBA team. You have a massive expansion. It changes the game. Because think about how many girls right now, if we could go through the college league, all those girls that are playing right now, there's a lot of the girls that are not going to make the league. And they should. They really should make the league, but there's only 12 teams. Mm-hmm. So think about the beginning of the NBA. When Dr. J and them were playing, they had to add teams in. The ABA, all those teams had to come. The Nets and all those guys. They do that because in order to grow, you have to add more so you can gain other attraction.
In the collective bargaining agreement that you mentioned.
Yes.
Most of it's focused on salaries, right?
It's focused on salaries because in order to make you look important, we got to pay you like you're fucking
right.
important.
And this is what I was going to say, right? So I went to the Google, I went to the Business Insider, right? WNBA salaries maxed out at maximum deal, $235,000.
Yep.
With the average league salary clocking in at $113,000.
That's the league minimum in the NBA.
No, that's the average. Oh, well, hold on. The minimum is $62,000.
No,
that's WNBA.
Right. I'm talking about the league. That's less than the league minimum in the NBA.
By comparison, minimum NBA salary minimum is $1.1 million.
Exactly. So we can't tell us.
You're going to have, if you're going to do that, you are going to have to drastically up the pay.
Right. And guess what happens when you up the pay? Now, as an NBA owner, I'm not going to lose money off these girls. I'm going to promote the crap out of them so we can make some money.
Let me talk the school side of things here.
Let's do it.
Many, many years ago, they passed Title IX. Mm-hmm. Okay. And what Title IX says is that for every male varsity sport, you have to have the same number of women's varsity sports to balance.
Yes.
Okay. That is what Title IX says.
That's what Title IX says. But they added a layer to that, though. You know what the added layer to that is?
Maybe.
Separate but equal is not equal at all.
Correct. So you can't just have men's, women in basketball. You can't have women's basketball and men's basketball and just kind of give you have to make sure that
it's equal.
Right.
So if you give them, if their budget is $5,000, then the girl's budget has to be $5,000.
The logic is that it would increase interest in women's sports, which guess what? It has.
Yep.
Okay. There's no denying that if you give women more opportunities, they're going to want to play sports.
Yep.
But you still have to go back to the ancient mentality of hunter-gatherers are men, or hunters are men, the gatherers are women. The women's job is still, again, and I'm not saying that I believe any of this. I'm just speaking in the devil's advocacy role.
I like it.
That the women's responsibility is not to be a gladiator. It's not to be the fighter. It is to make sure that they listen to what the men says. It's very tough. And again, looking at the political climate, looking at the way things are happening around us, to imagine a world where women's sports are ever going to be considered not even equal, but in the same realm and not as a sub product of the men's sports. The NBA can hype it all they want, just like they latched onto the G League, just like they have, tried to get, the college programs to, step up and stop sending guys after 1 year. That just like the NFL is now latching onto the AFL, XFL. People are still not going to watch the AFL, XFL. They're just not.
They're not.
Even though they are throwing money at it and trying to tie it in.
It's not the same product.
It is just not the same product. So again, until we see in my opinion.
No, you get it.
In my opinion, until we see a situation, this kind of goes back to the topic, and let's wrap after this because there's other cool things to talk about, but I don't think anything. I mean, it's such a good topic. Until somebody breaks that barrier where a female is playing alongside the men and dominating them, it's going to be very tough for it to be separate and ever treated equal.
Who is the number one player in the NBA? Who is the most popular?
Most popular? Well, I mean, it depends on who you ask.
I mean, who's the face of the NBA?
LeBron James.
Okay. Who's the face of the WNBA?
Asia Clark.
Asia Wilson. You said her name.
Asia Wilson.
But it's okay.
I got Asia right. A''J-A.
Yeah. Who's the number one fighter combat sports as a man?
Batman.
Who?
Batman. I'm Batman. I mean, I gave up around Conor McGregor, so
they said it's like Ngannou, and it's like not Conor McGregor, the other big guy, the guy that I can't remember, whatever. But you know who the number one combat fighter as a woman was?
Was not anymore. She had to go to professional wrestling.
Who?
Ronda Rousey.
Absolutely not.
Okay.
It's not Gina Carano either. But think about it. It was the thing. What's her name? I just had her on the Brazilian girl. What I'm telling you is, in her paydays, she made more than the men because at some point, dudes like to watch white women kick each other's butts.
Okay, you're talking apples and oranges here. Combat sports are different.
Why are they different?
Because misogynists, guys, your typical athlete, Amanda Nunes. Thank you, Javier.
Amanda Nunes. My bad.
Appreciate you. He even had a little chica over the end.
I like the way he did it.
Because
I knew her name. I got right up.
Combat sports are different, right? Think to movies, think to Hollywood, think to things like that, where they're like chick fight, cat fight, like they like to watch that crap. It is different because in their minds, again, guys are constantly thinking that women's jobs are only to appease men. So if you see two girls fighting, somewhere deep down at the core of many men is they're fighting over me.
Have you seen Amanda Nunes?
I don't.
She's not fighting over you. She's fighting to take your girlfriend.
Okay.
She's fighting to take your wife.
And I'm not saying I'm going to challenge Amanda Nunes. She's cool. She can have it.
Yeah, you got it, mate.
But what I'm saying is, the logic is, and okay. I know. So high school wrestling, right? The Greco-Roman wrestling. How many times have you seen a girl on the wrestling team, which happens all the time now, and she gets onto the mat, and the guy, nope, I'm not fighting her.
I've seen that, but I've also seen some girls beat some guys too.
So much so that girls wrestling is now becoming a thing.
Yes, it's a big thing in my high school too.
Right? Okay, now I'm going to go to the WWE, which
they're the most popular women, so you can't even use that. The divas are way more popular than the men.
But see, that's where you messed up. You're thinking of the WWE like when we were early 20s and your Trish Stratus's and your Stacy Keeblers, and they couldn't wrestle worth a damn.
Stratus. These girls can wrestle. These new ones can.
Hold on. What
are we doing?
Trish Stratus, she could wrestle a little bit, but what was she known for? Her boobies, right? Stacy Keebler, her legs. Lita, because she had a thong.
No, it's like she could flip.
And she could flip, right, in her thong. The female wrestlers now,
I'm telling you,
they're not as popular.
You crazy.
As the wrestlers from that generation?
Yes. Have you not watched wrestling? First of all, some of it we haven't been watching wrestling. We're old and we like
I turn it on. I'm like, I can't. It's.
Listen,
sir, you're in underwear
right now. These wrestlers, these female wrestlers, the divas have their own section. It's a huge deal. It's a huge deal. There was twins, the Bella twins. They're a whole thing.
I know, and they got their own show on E Network, and I get all that, but
they're just as big, if not bigger. They might be bigger
than the men's.
Yes, I am telling you. Look it up, bro. Like I'm telling you, like these people, men and women, go crazy for the divas. Because they actually can't wrestle, and they're like knocking each other's out.
But you're talking about a combat sport. You're not talking. So I remember, now I'm talking back to my video games, right? When I used to play
WWE SmackDown.
Even before that, I was a WrestleMania and a No Mercy on the N64 guy, man.
Oh, yeah.
When you went to tag in a mixed tag match, when you went to tag in the opposite gender, it was a forced tag of the opposite gender.
But that's not how it is anymore.
So you see a lot of girls fighting dudes in the WWE?
They be like effing these because it's all about the technique in wrestling.
Agreed. Take that same logic. You're going to have to put a Caitlin Clark in the NBA for them to get street cred. You're going to have to put a Brittany Griner-like talent in the NBA and have them dominate for them to get street cred.
No, B. It's not like civil rights. Like, no, it's not a civil rights movement situation.
But you have to go to the China was scary. Thank you.
China also is a porn star, so
you have to go to a situation where men are forced to watch, right? Mm-hmm. And that's where so far the only thing that we have said that is even close is what Conway said, which is the double headers. That's the only solution right now. Besides that, you have to put a female in the NBA. You have to put females in the NFL. You have to put females. I mean, think about it. There was a show a couple of years ago. It comes up on my TikTok, and I forget what the name of the show was, but the girl was the pitcher for the San Diego Padres, and she broke the color barrier, and Zach Morris was the catcher, and it lasted half a season. It was a great show, but Morris? Yeah, Mark Pogosler was the catcher. He had a beard. But the logic was that she's breaking down this barrier. Some female basketball player is going to have to play NBA basketball for men to go, oh, wait, they can ball too. The casual fan, not hoopers.
Well, I'm saying, but so there's a part of it that it's not safe.
Oh, correct.
It's just, it's barbaric as they want to make it.
But when you flip it the other way, right?
Look at Joanna Man. Remember the Joanna Man?
Say Joanna Man.
Remember the Joanna Man situation?
I do.
It wasn't okay.
Okay. Again, not trying to go over there, but let's go non-Hollywood. There is, how do I say this without getting our show canceled?
Some people who identify as other things.
There is a swimmer.
Yep.
I think for the University of Penn,
Yep.
who has now transitioned
Yep.
from a male to a female,
Yes.
who was middle of the pack, maybe worse than in men's swimming.
Yep.
And is now winning national titles in women's swimming.
Yep.
That is not okay.
No.
But if a woman wanted to swim against the men, we'd be all for it.
No, because that's why we stopped letting them. Because remember when we used to let people do these type of things, like even when we were growing up, like I had a girl on my first basketball team when I first started. But by the time I was a high schooler,
she was playing girls basketball.
Just playing girls basketball because if there's a huge gap with little kids, it doesn't matter.
How can you say you just proved my point? How can you say then that the WNBA is the same caliber as the NBA?
Here's where I'm gonna get you. This is the
final nail in the coffin. Please do, because I'm over this
back and forth.
Maybe I'm misogynistic because I'm not. I'm really not.
So really, what's gonna with the nail in the coffin is if you look at the product that's being put out, the women's game is a better caliber product. There's less turnovers. There's more plays being run. It's a better
defense
product.
Is a thing.
Yes, there's a better product. The only thing that people are looking at is the size and the dunks. That is all they're looking at. They're just the sheer, like just look. Remember the first time you saw LeBron James? His sheer size and his ability to do what he could do was great. But you got to think about on the team they played, the Cleveland Cavaliers had. He could have took girls and won that skilled girls and won those championships because the lack of the actual product. So if you're looking at it from that perspective of the casual fan, you're never going to be okay because there's a lot of casual Dallas Cowboy fans who know shit about football. Because if they were,
because they still got their VCR working.
If they did, they wouldn't continue to pull for the Dallas Cowboys because they know that they're not playing football. That is a Hollywood story, and that's where we're at with it. If you want to watch good basketball, okay, watch the girls' basketball. If you don't want to watch good basketball, watch the NBA. It's trash.
Okay. We got a couple other things on the wheel. I don't really want to do that because I was not expecting to do over half an hour on
WNBA,
the foundations of humanity, and
teach people how to be good humans,
and the roles of and the gender roles of men versus women. But that was
exhilarating.
I had a really great time with that conversation.
That was great.
Can we try to make a commitment to actually do this more than once every 2 months?
Yeah, let's do that. I mean, basketball's over, so I'll do it every day you want to do it.
Yeah, baseball, I'll try to do this. This needs its own podcast. Listen, Javier, this is not the first time that JD and I have evaluated the world from a very black and white perspective, which is interesting that we chose the alternating outfit colors that we did tonight.
This is kind of dumb. I didn't realize that.
But we've done this with race. We've done this with we've done this with the role of women in sports. I mean, I really enjoy the way that, and this is why JD and I a couple of years ago decided to pair up, because I think that we both have respectful, unique takes where we can have an actual dialogue.
And I'm not mad about it.
We're not walking away from here going, I'm never talking to each other again.
I mean, it may be a month before we talk, but it's only because.
But that's just because of scheduling.
Yeah, because we're busy.
Shout out to everybody in the comments. Javier, you stuck around the whole time. I mean, Conway, love you when you comment on. We got to get you on here for a show. David checking in. I mean, what a amazing show that was. Eric checking in, Nick checking in. I mean, Adam checking in. We appreciate you. Make sure you check us out. Click that notification button. I mean, you know that JD and I don't always get to do this, but him and I definitely do our own things from time to time. However, when we get the opportunity to do this, it's always worth it.
For sure. It's worth the wait.
It is. We had 2 months of pent-up frustration, apparently. Sure. All about the women's game.
It's about a lot more than that, but
that's JD, when you texted me, were you expecting to do a half hour on the women's game?
Yeah, actually, I was. No, I didn't know. I didn't know. But it just grinds my gears that they treat these girls this way, man. It really does. It really grinds my gears up, man. It really does.
Same, and again, because it's so they deserve so much more.
Because they're really putting the time into it, man. Like I literally just right now, and I'm gonna be done with this. There's a girl in South Carolina. She's going to play for the University of South Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
She has 3,900 career points in high school. 3,900. She's won 4 state championships.
Wild.
The girl that South Carolina got before her name was Malaysia Fulwiley.
Mm-hmm.
She's got 4 state championships. And we've just been like, we're like right now, like where we're at, we're in like this pinnacle where it's girl sports is like really, really, you're getting some of the most skilled athletes in the world. And if we don't, if we're not careful, we're gonna miss it. Worrying about dudes that can dunk. We're gonna miss it.
Or if you go to the dunk contest, can actually dunk.
That can actually dunk. Do you know that McDonald's All-American, a girl won it the year before last? And she plays for the University of South Carolina right now?
I couldn't tell you her name.
Ashlyn. What's her name?
But again, just I appreciate you, JD. I appreciate you sending me a text today going, hey, you want a pod? And I went, hey, I can do that.
It was that simple. So I was like, I'm waiting on her to respond back because I got some juice.
Yeah. So we'll be back.
We will be.
We're coming up on the hour 45 as we usually do because we're psychotic.
Well, we don't do it as much, so like this is really like 2
so
shows.
Good.
Yeah, but you do it like if you really do that, like it's really like only like an hour show for 3 weeks. So we're just getting it all in at once.
There you see. When the math be mathin'.
The math got a math.
All right. I'm Chip.
I'm Drip.
That's JD, aka Drip. You know, I'm white chocolate.
I'm chocolate.
That's it. I've had enough of you.
I've had enough of you.
Okay, bye.
Okay, bye.